If a major war breaks out between Iran, Israel, and the United States, the consequences will not stay limited to the Middle East. It could reshape the global balance of power, especially between India and China. Both India and China depend heavily on oil from the Middle East. They also rely on trade routes that pass through this region. But the way these two Asian powers have prepared for geopolitical crises is very different. For years, China has been building massive connectivity networks across Eurasia through large infrastructure projects. Railways, highways, and pipelines now connect China with Central Asia, Russia, and Europe. India, on the other hand, has increasingly focused on strengthening strategic partnerships with the United States and Israel. China has already built strong economic ties with Iran. If Iran faces war or heavy sanctions, it may depend even more on Chinese investment and trade. This could give China greater access to energy resources and strategic trade routes. Another major difference lies in infrastructure across Eurasia. China has developed multiple overland corridors that link its economy to Central Asia and Europe. India's access to Central Asia, however, depends heavily on transit routes through Iran, including the development of Chabahar port. If war destabilizes Iran, these routes could become unreliable. China's multiple land routes would give it far greater flexibility. Energy security is another crucial factor. India imports most of its oil by sea from the Middle East, and much of that oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. If conflict threatens this narrow choke point, India could face rising oil prices, inflation, and economic pressure. China also imports large amounts of oil, but it has diversified its supply routes. Pipeline networks from Russia and Central Asia reduce its dependence on maritime routes. Diplomatically, India's growing closeness with the United States and Israel also brings important advantages. These partnerships provide access to advanced defense technology, intelligence cooperation, and investment. However, close alignment with Western powers can sometimes reduce diplomatic flexibility during regional conflicts. China, by contrast, maintains economic relations with almost every major country in the Middle East. This allows Beijing to continue trade with different sides, even during times of conflict. Another geopolitical factor could also emerge. If a large war breaks out in the Middle East, the United States may be forced to focus much of its attention and military resources there. This could reduce Washington's strategic focus on the Indo-Pacific, and that could give China more space to expand its influence across Asia. However, India still holds important advantages. Its partnerships with Western economies provide access to technology, investment, and defense cooperation. At the same time, many global companies are now trying to reduce their dependence on Chinese manufacturing. If India successfully attracts these industries, it could significantly strengthen its long-term economic position.